Hi, everybody, and welcome to the premiere episode of the Neverscast, a little show where we're going to talk about Joss Whedon's new HBO drama, The Nevers. My name is Josh.
I'm Heather.
I'm Jackie.
And we are so thrilled that you're here to listen to us today.
Yes, all six of you.
Indeed, we are very thrilled.
But we will become mightier.
Amen.
So this, obviously, as Josh just said, this is a fan podcast for The Nevers, which is Joss Whedon's upcoming show, his newest scripted adventure for powerful women. And we're not the official podcast. We want to get that out there right up front. There is an official podcast. We're not their competitors. We're just fans doing our own thing. We always said if Joss did another show, we would do a podcast for it. So we are small but ambitious and just doing our own thing, not affiliated with HBO or Mutant Enemy.
And it's not
Anemone.
And it's not a contest, but you are listening to the superior broadcast.
Obviously. It's not a competition, but it's a competition.
So the plan is to do this occasionally until right up before the show starts. This is kind of just a passion project for us. And so as news comes out, we'll do incidental podcasts before the show. We don't even have a premiere date for the show, from what I understand. It is shooting in London, but we don't know when it's going to start. Probably not until next year at some point. We assume it will be on Sunday night. That's usually when HBO puts their powerhouse stuff on, like Game of Thrones, when it was running. So as we get closer, we'll start to pick up the pace on the show.
I mean, and right now we're just pretty much planning on one episode after the episode airs.
Right.
Us. Right. We're not
doing
and
it'll be, analysis as well as a recap.
Yeah.
So let's go around the room with our fan journeys. We're all doing this because we're fans of Joss Whedon's work. I started out not watching Buffy, although I did see the Buffy movie when I was in college. I worked at a movie theater, and I was really intrigued by the name of the movie, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and it sounded so subversive, and I was really excited to see it, and then I saw it, and I was like, this is not at all what I thought this was going to be. It turns out that Joss's vision was closer to what I thought it was going to be than it actually turned out, but he wasn't directing, so it went the way the producers wanted it to go. I didn't know who he was at the time, but I got turned on to Firefly, and I really, really loved that show. And I guess in 2006, I had ankle surgery, and I had to be in bed for 6 months. Like, I had to learn how to walk again on my ankle. They reconstructed it. And I decided I was going to watch Buffy in its entirety, since I was such a big Firefly fan. And there were a lot of people that were in the show that I liked, like Seth Green and Sarah Michelle Gellar. And that was it. I was a goner. Buffy is actually now my favorite show by him. Like, I love Firefly and Angel and everything else, but Buffy is his masterpiece to me. And I have been gone ever since. And Josh and I are a couple, and we met because of Buffy and Firefly and all that stuff. So I've watched all of his properties several times, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. Jackie?
Well, my fan journey's not as extensive as yours. I was aware of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I knew that the movie, when I saw the casting for the movie with Luke Perry and stuff, I was like, oh my gosh, what are they doing? Like, that looks dumb. And I was right. And then when the show came out, I was like, why are they making a show based on this stupid movie?
That was my thought. I was like, what?
What is that? So I kind of didn't pay attention to any of that. I probably accidentally saw some Joss Whedon stuff because I saw all of the Alien movies, and apparently he did Alien Resurrection, which I only recently learned. I actually watched Buffy when you had your ankle surgery because we were good friends at that point, and you were like, this show is great, and I was like, well, I'm interested now because you're so hot about it. And I think I bought the DVDs because nobody had Netflix at the time, and I jammed through the first season of the DVDs and immediately went to Barnes & Noble and bought the second season, and did that for a few weeks and just jammed them all down at one time. I've gone through it a second time a couple of years ago, maybe 10 years ago now.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And I'm kind of thinking I probably should go through them again. I love Serenity or Firefly.
Yeah.
And Cabin in the Woods is my favorite movie of all time. All time. Love that movie. saw a lot of horror movies, and I watched that movie in the theater, and I was like, this is a love letter to my people. It was. It's great. So that's where I'm at.
Josh?
So I got onto the Buffy train pretty much from day one, right through to Angel, right through to Firefly. When they announced that my favorite writer/director was going to be writing/directing my favorite comic book property for the big screen, I damn near peed on myself.
You're talking the Avengers, right?
Talking the Avengers. Yeah. I'm not here to say I'm the original Joss Whedon fan, but if somebody's keeping track, it's probably pretty close. Heather and I actually, we even have matching Buffy the Vampire Slayer tattoos.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
We do.
I forgot I had a tattoo.
Well, it's on my back shoulder, so I never see it.
That's true. That's true.
I'm going to say, I got into the Marvel movies because of the Avengers being written by Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. More than that, he was really, I think most people know this too, that he was an integral part of the whole world building for the first phase and the second, I think. Mm-hmm. He had a lot to do with the success of meshing together all those books and getting them to come together for the Avengers. And that's probably why they let him direct it. Mm-hmm. So, he was part of the 10-year? He was like front and center in the 10-year picture.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, moving on, I think the next thing we want to talk about is the elephant in the room, which is I don't even know how to put it, so I'm just going to say it.
Yeah.
The whole breakdown of, the feminist mystique that kind of surrounded Josh as the good guy that wrote for women. His ex-wife, Kai Cole, who was a collaborator, and they have children and they were married for a long time, put up fairly inflammatory blog out that said, basically, without reading the whole thing, that it was all an act and that their marriage was a shield for him to carry on multiple affairs with his co-stars, both actual and emotional, and that he wasn't the great feminist that he said he was. And I got to tell you, when this came out, I had heard whispers for years. But when the crap hit the fan, if you will, I was heartbroken. Like I knew as no one's perfect, right? And no one knows but the two people in a marriage what's going on. But it was it was way worse than I ever thought it could be. That being said, in light of the Me Too movement, no one's come out and accused him of harassment or anything like that. Now, you could make the case for a person in a position of power on his shows as showrunners, not appropriate, probably true, and the whole argument for separating the art from the artist. So I kind of wondered where you guys are at with that.
Well, I was super disappointed when this information came out for quite a while, because you and I had been planning Firefly-based tattoos.
Yeah, and that put the kibosh on that.
And that put a kibosh on it.
Did she freeze?
Unfortunately, at this point in the conversation, Jackie's computer became haunted by the ghosts of dead Whedon characters, and her audio did not record. However, having heard her answer firsthand, I can assure you that it was the very best and most thorough answer given to any question ever. Frankly, it's a shame you'll never get to hear it. I, for one, was moved. We now return you to your regularly scheduled broadcast.
I mean, there could be, maybe men have it right. They don't really care about if their sports stars are good guys or not. They want their sports stars to win touchdowns, right? Beyond, hopefully they're, and sometimes this isn't even true. They're not willing to overlook major stuff, but maybe we shouldn't invest so much in a foible human being and, listen to the narrative voice as opposed to how that person's living their life. I'm not sure where the line is. What do you think, Josh? Our token man.
So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. In the argument of separating the art from the artist, I think that you have to take into account the message of the art. Mm-hmm. And I think you have to take into account the level of the transgression. So I will say I will still watch my Joss Whedon stuff, but I'm not over here bumping R. Kelly.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So that's where I am.
I think I said that in a more complicated manner, but
Basically.
That's okay. I mean,
I think
I
it
don't
will
listen
be-
to Michael Jackson anymore.
I'm
I
saying,
can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
I think it would be interesting, though, as we go down the line and have discussions on the show and some of his previous works where we can lens some of the less flattering things about his work, such as the fetishization of certain things in his work, or what I consider to, be some bad acting by Xander or some other men in the show that's actually probably, more realistic than you would like to think. That's a genuine male voice of dissatisfaction or unfairness in relationships. So,
Well, that was my problem.
or
with
frustration.
Xander.
Yeah.
I was,
Well,
I was
yeah.
watching that show to be entertained, and I don't like Xander because he's an actual guy on this show that's supposed to be fun and entertaining for me, and kind of a little bit of fantasy. That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's just
Yeah.
a dude.
Okay, so now that we've wrapped up the super serial stuff, super ethereal,
Super serial, you guys.
we're gonna move on to the good stuff and talk about the new show. I'm super excited because I said before the bad times in Whedonland that if he ever got a show on HBO where he didn't have to answer to anybody over content, it would be the most amazing show ever. So I'm hoping, this is going to be a brilliant peak TV event. So we'll be right back to talk the Neverscast.
You're listening to the Neverscast. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, and we're back. So we're gonna kind of get into the meat of the show here. The premise for the Nevers is it's going to be it's this epic science fiction drama about a gang of Victorian women that find themselves with unusual abilities. This is what every single press release has said that I read the past couple of weeks. They have relentless enemies and a mission that might change the world. Certainly sounds very epic.
Sounds very Jaws.
Yeah, oh yeah, that too.
It's right smack in the middle of his wheelhouse.
I mean, take Victorian women
is-
out of there and it's Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Right. This is the original language that HBO released. So I think that I've kind of read other properties that gives away other details. Like I think the name of the gang is the Touched, or they're referred to by the people that are pursuing them as the Touched.
I know they said that
that's
the
not
Nevers was
100%.
not.
This is
They said the Nevers was not something that the group would refer to themselves as.
no, and
read
Josh
that.
actually talked about what the Nevers kind of referred to. If you could go to the Wikipedia page. The title, Whedon explained at Comic-Con 2018, they themselves are not called the Nevers in the show. It's a phrase that's meant to evoke sort of reaction to their oddity or to what is considered unnatural. He goes in at length about this, but that's, he has stated that they're not calling themselves the Nevers. The gang is not named the Nevers, so it's just the title of the show. As we mentioned before, it's already shooting in London, and we don't know the release date. The first thing we wanted to talk about is the showrunners, writers, producers. Obviously, Whedon is the showrunner. He's probably going to direct the first couple. For those who don't know him, which I can't imagine anybody that's
Why are
listening
you
to this
here
doesn't.
if you don't know him?
But
Shut this off and go watch Dr. Horrible right now.
right. Start with that.
We'll wait.
Whedon started out as a TV writer and a script doctor for films. He first wrote on Roseanne. He was a writer on Toy Story and won an Oscar for it. He was also a writer on Titan AE and Alien Resurrection, both of which, as well as Buffy the movie, which he has expressed disappointment in on how they ended up after production. He is the creator and showrunner of Buffy, the Vampire Slayer, the TV show, Angel, Firefly, Dollhouse, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He is also the writer and director of the film The Avengers and Avengers 2 Age of Ultron. He was a writer of Cabin in the Woods and a producer. I believe Drew Goddard was the director.
Yes.
And Much Ado About Nothing with his ex-wife Kai Cole. And of course, during the writer's strike, I believe of 2006, was it 6? I want to say it was 5 or 6, that Dr. Horrible was released. Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. So that's just a whole, I don't even know how to explain what that is, but it's awesome. Neil Patrick
awesome.
Harris is in it.
It's brilliance is what it is.
You have to just go watch it.
So, what can you say about Joss? I mean, he's probably the most respected showrunner and writer out there that's never won an Emmy. You know what I mean? He's got an Oscar for writing, but that was, in a Pixar group of writers. So I think Buffy was the only show that ever got an Emmy nomination for the big stuff like writing, acting, directing, stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this show.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot of good stuff there, and that's he's got a good resume.
Yeah, well, it's got a hell of a resume.
Yeah.
Look at it. Look at it.
I know. I'm looking at it.
All right, next, Jane Espenson. Jane is also a writer from Buffy. Joss likes to work with people again and again and again, and Jane is no exception. Jane also went her own way after Buffy and wrote for Battlestar Galactica, Caprica, which was a spinoff of Battlestar Galactica, Torchwood, which is a Doctor Who spinoff, and Once Upon a Time, which I watched for years, which was a really great reimagination of a lot of the Disney fairy tales. Her notable episodes in Buffy were Band Candy, where the candy made all the grown-ups regress into their teenage selves, which was amazing to watch Giles turn into.
That was fantastic.
A Cockney, punk. Superstar was about how Jonathan used a glamour to make everybody think he was rich and famous. And I think one of the most important Buffy episodes, this would be top 10 for me, is Conversations with Dead People. Mm-hmm. And this was just basically almost a segment show of different people talking to people that had passed away, either vampires or ghosts or something like that, it was almost existentialist in nature, I would say. So really thrilled with Jane being on the show. BSG to me was an amazing achievement in science fiction. We can talk about how poorly it ended, but for the,
but
that's the elephant in the room, right? We just got stabbed in the heart with Game of Thrones. So, no one seems to learn. BSG dropped us on our head. Lost almost killed us. And, Game of Thrones, that we thought, look at this juggernaut. They'd never let that happen.
They let it happen.
They let it happen. In fact,
happen.
I thought it was more egregious. It was almost like some of them you could tell, like Lost, I felt like they just didn't know where to go with it.
Yeah,
they had written all these complex storylines with no answer. But, I thought Game of Thrones was a big middle finger.
Yeah.
That's what I felt like. So you guys got any thoughts on Jane?
No.
I feel like I'm doing all the talking. So.
Well, I think because you also know these. I watch these shows as the shows and don't necessarily pay attention to everybody behind the scenes.
Right.
I mean, it totally makes sense to me that if you're doing a collaborative project and people that are that you've worked with before, that you get along with, that have great ideas, it makes sense to me that he kind of goes back to people that he's worked with before to say, hey, here's this new thing we're doing. Let's come do this with me. I mean,
right.
Everybody does that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you, the more we get into the cast and everything, like one of the things, and you don't see it in some of the things I notated it, but there are so many of these people that have worked together multiple times on similar projects and same projects. And, I can imagine that, especially in the British kind of acting discipline, everybody must know everybody at some point, because it's such a tiny pool of people.
Well, they've all done Jane Austen together.
They've all done Jane Austen together. That, you can't do anything in America unless you do a Jane Austen movie first.
It's the rule.
You have to do Emma.
It's a rule.
If you don't do Emma or Pride and Prejudice, you don't work in America.
Just don't even bother.
So what exactly is Jane doing for the Nevers? She's
writer.
She's strictly a
writer. And she's co-producing.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. Josh is the show writer, director, and Joss. Take that out.
I'm Josh. That's the third one, actually.
Yeah, it is. You've done that a couple times.
Well, that's because I live with your Joss ass. Ooh. I'm going to start calling you Joss.
I mean, I'm into a little role play. That's cool.
We'd have to dye your hair red.
No.
Do you guys want me to leave?
Shave half. So
I draw the line at being a ginger. Sorry.
So Joss is the showrunner and director and probably writer, head writer. Jane is a writer, co-producer. Whedon is also the executive producer. Doug Petrie, who we'll talk about next, and Bernie Caulfield are also co-executive producers. So we're going to let Joshua talk about Doug Petrie because he adores a show that Petrie just wrapped.
So, yeah, I assume you're talking about Daredevil.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which,
I'm talking about Daredevil.
Was just breathtakingly good. What else can you say about that? It was amazing. What else has Doug been on? Buffy, Angel, Pushing Daisies, which was fresh and imaginative and fantastic. American Horror Story. Granted, I only saw the first couple of seasons of that, but I enjoyed them. I feel like that's a show that might have jumped the shark a couple seasons ago.
Yeah, I got up through Coven, and I've struggled a couple of times with the fourth one, and the Big Top one and the Freak Show one, and I can't get through it.
Yeah, I think I dropped out about a third of the way through Coven.
I still haven't seen it.
With Coven. Coven was visually arresting, which I really loved.
Sure. So what's the... Oh, B is the episodes that he...
Oh, yeah. So
directed?
Petrie... No, he wrote these.
Okay.
So Petrie has some of my favorite episodes, which is why I'm really excited about this. And his writing on Daredevil was amazing. Like, Josh was like, you have to watch this with me. I'm going to do this the entire podcast. I'm going to call Josh, and Josh. Okay.
Now I know how the cats feel.
Well, didn't your parents ever call you the wrong names all the time? Like, go through the whole lineup?
You know, actually, it wasn't my parents. It was my grandmother who had 3 sons, and then I was the first grandson. My father's name was Bill. My oldest uncle's name was Bill Bob.
Oh, God.
My youngest uncle was Bill Bob Dave, and my name is actually Bill Bob Dave Josh, according to my grandmother, because she had to run through the whole list to get to the right name.
Okay, so my parents also did that, but I had 2 brothers.
I was the oldest, and I still got called Heather. My sister's name is Summer. So Doug wrote Bad Girls, which is an amazing episode with Eliza and Sarah Michelle Gellar as the 2 Slayers going wild. Fool for Love and Beneath You, which are both seminal Spike episodes. And he also co-wrote Dr. Horrible. So props to Mr. Petrie. We are excited.
Hell of a resume.
Yes.
Bernadette Caulfield.
She is not a writer. She is a producer. So she may be the day-to-day producer on this. Her credits include X-Files, Carnival, Big Love, and Game of Thrones.
But we won't hold that against her.
But she did X-Files. That wipes out the Game of Thrones.
Yeah. She actually came to prominence for in the spotlight because producers don't get a lot of attention usually for apologizing for the coffee cup drama in Blast of the Stars, saying that it couldn't have been Amelia.
Yeah, Amelia Clark.
Amelia Clark's coffee cup because she drank tea.
Because that doesn't get served in a coffee cup.
I guess not. And then everybody blamed Kit because that's what they do. So she is producing only. They also have a writer only on staff named Laura Penny, who I don't know anything about, but she is a feminist writer and blogger that's supposedly quite notable. This is her first foray into TV.
Interesting.
So that's going to be interesting. And then Gemma Jackson, production designer. Her biggest credits are Game of Thrones and Finding Neverland. She's won Emmys and nominated for an Oscar for production design. So that is the head office on the show. So I'm needless to say, I'm pretty excited. It's pretty bulletproof. I'm really excited about Doug Petrie. Jane Espenson, I love, but some of her Buffy episodes are questionable. She wrote Double Meat Palace.
I love that episode.
Ugh, it's terrible.
Oh, that's one of my favorites.
Are you kidding?
Love Double Meat.
No.
That's my shit.
I can't remember if she wrote Beer Bad or not, but I want to say she did.
Also
God.
a brilliant episode.
Oh, Beer Bad
Josh.
is just the worst.
So good.
Anyway, so but Doug's credits are really good. So yeah.
All right.
And that's all I got to say about that.
Yeah. So let's cover the news.
The
news up until now.
So we've tried to keep track of the big milestones and not get too repetitive on the blog. The blog is thenevercast.com. We'll start, all it's been is kind of a news page with updates on it up until now. The first update, of course, we had was that HBO had given the show to Joss Whedon. This was last year, even before now. And I've just been keeping my eye on it, and there hadn't been news forever and ever and ever, but apparently there was a bidding war for Joss's show between Netflix and HBO and HBO One. Mm-hmm. I am really happy HBO One. I think that they've got the budget to really realize this vision. Mm-hmm. Not that I have a problem with Netflix. Netflix has done a great job with the independent properties that they have, but HBO is just,
HBO is spectacle.
Yeah, they really are. I feel like he'll get more viewers. Mm-hmm. I feel like HBO is a little more bang for the buck.
And I feel like with Netflix, even a good show can get lost in the din.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I agree. There's so many different properties that...
I mean, I also think there's something to be said for episodic television that is released week to week.
Yes.
As opposed to being able to jam a whole thing the second it comes out.
So I'm going to be selfish and say that's part of the reason. If they had done it as Netflix, it would have been impossible to blog it or to podcast it. Yeah. Because it would just be a 10-episode dump. That's another thing. How long is it going to be?
Probably 10 episodes.
I was going to say 10 episodes is kind of the is kind of the going rate for shows. They also released HBO has the official webpage up.
Oh,
so it's kind of empty. The next thing they did after they gave the show to Joss was cast Laura Donnelly. Mm-hmm. So she's the lead, and we'll talk more about her in a minute when we start talking about the cast. But she was the first, and way before they named the rest of the cast, like months before, they talked about Laura Donnelly and her leading the show. So then after that, after they opened the website, then just recently they came out with the cast list, which is what we're going to talk about next.
Mm-hmm. Right after this break.
Everybody grab a drink and a sandwich.
The Neverscast will return after this brief pause. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at The Neverscast.
So we're back with the topic of the show, which is the cast list that was released a couple of weeks ago. Jackie and I were unfortunately at our giant horse convention, so we couldn't get right on a mic and talk about this right away.
Now, that is to say, it is a giant convention about horses. It is not a convention about giant horses.
It could be.
Actually, it's a giant convention about little horses.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
But we won't talk about that.
That's the other.
That's a whole other.
That's
podcast.
the
You
other
can listen to our
podcast.
other podcast, Mayors in Black, if you're curious. Available on Apple and Spotify.
Wherever you stream your favorite podcasts.
So first up, obviously, is Laura Donnelly, who was named months ago. She's going to play Amalia True. She is an emotionally damaged alcoholic, from what I can tell from the writing, so I am her biggest fan already.
Relatable content.
This is my spirit animal. She is a menace to stuffy Victorian society. Hell yeah. Mm-hmm. My guess is she's the leaders of the Touched, or whatever they're calling them. Her previous credits include Outlander, the new movie Tolkien, The Fall, which was a series on BBC with Gillian Anderson, which was fantastic. And she's an accomplished stage actress. I think 99% of the cast is, if not UK actors, are not American.
Okay.
So I gotta be honest, I've seen Outlander and The Fall and I don't remember her. So
I'm gonna look for a picture. Hold on.
I'm looking at a
I've
picture
seen a
of her
picture and
I
it still
don't know
doesn't
who
ring
she
a bell.
is.
So
yeah.
I don't know who the fuck that is. I don't recognize her face.
Nope.
Nothing.
And
Sorry.
I've watched out.
Yeah, she's been on stuff I've seen, but nope, new one on me.
Okay.
All right,
Well, I'm
so who's
sure
next?
we'll love her eventually. or not.
Yes, she will be our favorite person. So I arranged this in, except for her because she's the lead, in order of notoriety.
Okay.
So the next person I know that everybody in this room knows, this virtual room, is Nick Frost.
That's my boy right there.
Love
Really,
Nick
what
Frost.
what has Nick Frost not been in is the more valid question. He is playing the Beggar King, who is probably some underground criminal mafia type, is what I could,
that's
from
what I
looking
gathered.
at this, and is an accomplice to Amalia and her gang, and he protects the Touched and helps them out. Obviously, his credits are the Cornetto trilogy, which is World's End, Hot Fuzz, and obviously Shaun of the Dead. Paul, Attack the Block, Tomb Raider, and hundreds more.
Yeah.
I mean, I swear I see a Nick Frost in a movie every other week.
Oh yeah.
So he'll be talking in a really thick Cockney accent and wearing rags and being eloquent. I'm pretty sure he'll be the Badger of this show.
I guarantee you right now, Nick Frost will be the best thing about this show.
Oh,
Doesn't matter how good everything else is. Nick will be the shining glory of this show.
Yeah.
I could get down
Well,
with that.
it's interesting because if you look down how they have it listed, he's further down the list. So I don't know if he's going to be a weekly feature or what, or if he's something they go to occasionally. Do you know what I mean? It'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
Agreed.
I mean, because the stuff I was reading about him too, I don't know that he's happy to help them, but it's also, I think he could also be at odds with them too.
Oh,
So he's
yes,
kind of
he's
an
definitely-
unreliable dude.
Yeah, that's why I say he's Badger. He's a blackguard. He's a pirate.
He's definitely the kind of character that looks out for number one, and if it serves his interests to help the Touched, then if it goes against his interests,
Oh well.
Meh.
too
Too bad, so sad.
Next up is Olivia Williams, who is a veteran of one Joss Whedon show, which is Dollhouse, which I adored towards the end. It had a rough going the first, I'd say, 4 episodes before it really got going. And after that, I thought it was brilliant. And she was one of the best parts of that show. Her and Fran Kranz, who played Topher, right?
Yeah.
He was fantastic. She is going to play a woman by the name of Lavinia Below, a wealthy spinster and champion of the Touch. So she's the den mother. So she will fund the orphanage where Amalia and the other girls come from. She's old-fashioned but strong-willed. So she's the mother figure. She'll try and take care of the girls and probably keep them in line. Olivia Williams is also Oscar-nominated, very well-respected British actress. Besides Dollhouse, she was in Miss Austen Regrets, The Sixth Sense, Peter Pan, Hannah, just to name a few. And that doesn't touch on all the Jane Austen movies I have seen her in. Like, lots of them.
Ben Chaplin is not a name that I recognize.
He
Ben
looks
Chaplin.
a little familiar though.
So, did anyone see The Secret Life of, or The Truth About Cats and Dogs with
I
Janine
did because it was
Garofalo in the
about
90s?
it was about a veterinarian. So yes, I
So
did.
he was the love interest.
That's why I know him.
He also was in Washington Square. He was a leading man in the 90s.
Okay.
He was in Washington Square, which is based, I believe, on a I want to say Eudora Welty, but that's not right. One of the New York writers that wrote The Age of Innocence was about he was a fortune hunting cad that was after Jennifer Jason Leigh, who was a plain girl, but her father had lots of money. So it was costume drama. He was also, I believe, the prince's father in Cinderella, the latest live action release that Disney did, and The Legend of Tarzan, which I haven't seen. So he is a detective. Did they even have detectives in Victorian times?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I mean, they had
Absolutely.
cops, right?
Yeah.
But did they have detectives?
That's when that stuff
Scotland.
was just getting started.
Scotland Yard,
yeah.
baby.
All right. So he's probably going to be after the Touch, not understanding who they are. That's my that's my thinking. Oh, and raise your hand if you think that Jack the Ripper is going to show up on this show.
Oh, absolutely. Duh.
I think he's the big bad of season 1. It's so obvious.
No,
Although, it could be like Joss was with Dracula, though, that just drug him out for one show because it was expected of him.
I think Joss has a habit of being so subversive that it would not surprise me if we see the Touched dispatch Jack the Ripper in the first 15 minutes of the first episode.
Totally. Ben Chaplin is a great actor. He is going to bring, I believe he's older now, he's going to bring a lot of gravitas to this role. It looks like he's going to be caught between his convictions, trying to catch or help or do something with the Touched, and being sandwiched between the bad guys, which there are several of that we'll be getting to.
Oh, I know him.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's see that him on the right in that picture on Google. That was him when he was like Pete Ben Chaplin, like Truth About Cats and Dogs.
Right.
Ben Chaplin.
Oh, he's hot.
Yeah.
Boy, he'd make a good Reed Richards. This guy.
Oh.
Mr. Impossible.
Yeah. No, Mr. Incredible.
Mr. Impossible's from Venture Brothers. The rubber guy, right? It's the rubber guy, right?
Yeah. Mr. Incredible is the rubber guy. Mr. Impossible is married to Elastigirl.
Oh, then who am I thinking of in the Venture Brothers?
Yeah, I was gonna say Mr. Incredible is married to Elastigirl.
Yeah, it's Mr. Impossible in Venture Brothers.
That's right. Okay.
And then Mr. Incredible is
Mr. Fantastic.
Yes.
Right?
Is it Mr. Fantastic?
Mr. Fantastic
Fantastic
is
Four.
There is so much satire now, I can't even keep it straight. Who's next?
Dennis O'Hare.
Okay, Dennis O'Hare is an American character actor. He always kind of plays villains, but they're always kind of Weasley, seedy type villains. His latest credit was that show on NBC, which is called This Is Us, which I got through 2 episodes and had to turn it off because it was so sappy, I almost died.
Wow.
It was so bad. Like Josh tried to watch it with me, and he was just like, "This is terrible." Now some people love it, but I couldn't get through it. It was just it was so maudlin.
Oh, he was the burned guy in Horror Story. Okay.
Yeah, he was in Horror Story. He was also a ghost in Coven.
He's good. I like his
No,
work.
he's excellent.
Yeah, he's a hell of an actor.
Gotta find
So
a
he was
picture of
also
him.
in True Blood, Dallas Buyers Club. He has a ton of credits. Very well respected character actor. Mm-hmm. He plays Edmund Haig, a gifted American surgeon, and he uses his skill in the coldest, most brutal way possible. So that's creepy.
So a surgeon.
Like a surgeon.
Huh. I wonder, is he our Jack the Ripper?
He might be.
He might be.
They say Jack the Ripper was a surgeon.
Yeah.
Yes. He also probably wants to find these girls and cut them open and figure out what makes them tick.
Mm-hmm.
James Norton, I am not familiar with him. He is apparently a big British actor in a show called Grantchester, which is wildly popular over there. He was in Death Comes to Pemberley, which I saw because it's a Jane Austen-related movie. Black Mirror, Little Women, the reboot of Flatliners, which was a dog.
I'm sure I've seen him in Black Mirror. He looks familiar to me. That's the one show I've seen.
He
on
plays
that list.
Hugo Swan, a pansexual posh boy whose charm is about 5 years left on its lease. So he runs a secret club. So he's the bartender. He's Lorne. He's probably Lorne.
He's the spider.
Yes.
He's the spider.
Yeah.
He's Varys the spider. I mean,
Well, see, I'm trying to make all these crosswalks to Joss's stuff.
Oh, sure.
So he's Lorne. Because Lorne was an empath, right?
Yeah.
And a
Which
real
show
empath.
which show was Lorne on?
Angel.
That's
he was
why
the green demon with the bar.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't watch Angel, but I know that character.
He could read people's emotions if they sang.
Okay.
So he's going to be super interesting. Tom Riley, who plays Augustus Augie Bidlow, who is related to
He's Lavinia's younger brother.
Lavinia's younger brother. He's an ornithologist, which are birds, right?
Yes.
So I don't know what that has to do with anything, but it's a little weird.
Well, birds were very popular. That's about the time that James Audubon was kind of doing his thing across America.
Mm-hmm.
catching birds and making paintings of them, or killing birds and making paintings of them.
Oh, and so he's buddies with his nefarious best friend Hugo and is infatuated with Miss Adair. So he's going to be a real pain in the ass, it sounds like.
This is going to be your Xander.
This is Xander.
Yep.
Anne Skelly plays Penance Adair, Amalia's dearest friend, and one of the first women to join the cause. I don't know if that means that she has powers. They don't talk about her having powers, but she is a devout yet heretical progressive. I don't know what that means.
A devout yet heretically progressive Irish girl.
Oh, devout Irish girl, though? Like, you're either Irish or you're not. Anyway, Penance
You
is the
sound like
inventor.
devout and Irish don't go together? Is that what you think?
Well, if she's heretical, how can she be a devout?
She's heretically progressive. So this is like, not that
But then
she's
what is she devout about?
What?
Being Irish?
Being Catholic, if
Being
she's
Catholic,
Irish,
but,
probably.
being the black sheep Catholic who's kind of like, hey, mates, this isn't all. This is what,
I don't know. I'm Episcopal.
Yeah, she's not
I'm
not being a literal heretic, but saying, hey,
No, I wasn't saying
Yeah.
that. It didn't make sense to me.
I'm
But
a devout Catholic yet heretically progressive. Ow, my internal conflict.
yes. So it says she has a genius for invention. So she's going to be Polly Peretti from CSI, right? She's going to be the person with all the gadgets.
or Kylie from Firefly.
Who?
The engineer on Firefly.
Kaylee.
Oh, Kaylee. Yeah. It's more like the guy on Alias that came up with all the gadgets, like for
She's
the taking
Q.
She's
She's
cute.
cute.
Yeah,
I
she's
like
cute.
it. She's cute.
Perfect. I don't know her at all. Her credits are Little Women, that was for TV and BBC, and a show called Red Rock that runs in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
So she'll probably be new to most viewers.
Pip Torrens.
Pip. Boy, that sounds threatening.
You should look at him because he don't look like a Pip.
No, he doesn't look like a Pip at all. And
Well, now I gotta look. Hold on.
he's going to be the dickhead English lord that's, going to be part of the government.
Yeah.
You know what I
God,
mean?
This looks like the guy I just stopped working for.
Oh, is that Dildo?
Is it?
I always thought Dildo was sportier.
If you take 10 years off of this guy and make him like a pickup basketball and tight shorts kind of guy,
Oh, yeah.
and that's this dude.
Yeah, I always thought Dildo sounded like he had more weight on him.
Yeah, he's a pretty sporty guy. But his head's the same shape, and he's got that same
Look.
asshole look on his face.
So there's always the talk of the gray men in the government, in British, merciless, does the bidding of the British crown at the time. I think that's who he's going to be. He's the former general, he's going to be, trying to figure out, obviously he's going to consider the touched girls because they're women and they're superpowered a threat. So yeah, Pip.
Also in Black Mirror. I've probably seen him.
Oh
too.
yeah, he was in. Oh, and he was in Star Wars.
Who was he in
Force
Force
Awakens.
Who was he in The Force Awakens?
He was. I want to say his credit was Colonel Jordan or something really.
So he was there. He probably said 2 lines and that was it.
He was probably in a gray outfit and got choked out.
Okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
He's in Poldark, which is a hugely popular BBC show. Black Mirror, The Crown, and Danish Girl. Zachary Mariah?
MoMA?
MoMA? Oh, I'm too far away. You're right.
Yeah.
MoMA.
Or is it? Well, here it's spelled MoMA, and here it's spelled Momo.
It's spelled
I think it's MoMA.
Zachary
Momoa.
no.
Wouldn't that be something?
That would
Yeah.
be something.
Totally different show.
Yeah. And all the girls slept with him. The end.
Still could happen.
He plays another doctor, Horatio Cousins, one of the few successful West Indian physicians in London. And then he met Amalia and she screwed him up. So now he works with her. And the Beggar King, which, So he was in Doctor Sleep in 7 Seconds, which is a TV show that's popular on Netflix.
I haven't seen either of those
No,
things.
me neither.
Dr. Sleep
That
is
was
the
a
sequel
to The
Shining.
right?
Yeah, I
Yes.
didn't watch it.
No, me neither. He's cute.
He is cute.
Don't think I've ever seen him in anything else. And that's a totally different guy. Thanks, Google.
I would make the comment, but it wouldn't go over well.
No, it would not.
Because I would be saying it out of derision,
And
but
cut.
but you know what I mean. Amy Manson? Manson. Boy, that's forbidding. Her name is Malady.
I was gonna say
which I
her
guess,
character's name is foreboding
Also
too.
forbidding.
but
yeah.
that's actually was a popular name back then. I don't know why, because it's just not good. But she got committed, and she's got some crazy warped power, and is being tortured by doctors, which is probably the sicko doctor up the list. And now she's underground with either the girls or will be part of the girls, but we'll see what's going on with Malady.
She affects a theatrical parody of a bedlam waif, but mad as she is, she's a woman with a purpose.
So it's River.
It's Drusilla.
Yes, it's River.
It's River.
or Drusilla.
It's Drusilla. This is not a hero character.
No.
This is our
I
villain.
don't know. I think it may be a River. She has powers.
Maybe
White
she's a
Princess.
cross between River and Drusilla. She has
She-
powers, but
she
she's
runs-
more warped.
I mean, I'm really, you just,
She runs a gang, is on an infamous murder spree. She's mad, and she's a woman with a purpose. This is classical egomaniacal supervillainy.
okay.
Yeah, I would buy
Maybe
that.
you're right. White Princess, Once Upon a Time, T2 Train Spotting, Doom Annihilation. Pretty impressive credit list. Rochelle Neal, Annie Carby, aka Bonfire.
I wonder what her power
Let's
is.
get that right out there.
Pyrokinetics.
Drew Barrymore, line 1. She has the ability to control fire. She's the only one they've come out and said that has a power.
Yeah.
Well, the only power they've named.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, like
Yeah.
an actual like defined power, I guess.
Came up rough, stayed that way. It's tough out here on these streets. These
Hard out there
Victorian
for
streets.
a pimp, man. Terminator Dark Fate and BBC's Das Boot.
Das Boot.
Because if anything needs to be rebooted, it's Das Boot.
Das Reboot.
Oh, and finally, Eleanor Thompson, who plays Mary... Tomlinson, sorry. Mary Brighton. Gentle but surprisingly resilient. Mary pursued her dream of singing on stage. A disappointing career and a broken engagement haven't diminished her spirit. She's going to be great. She's going to be very surprised how, though.
There's your River.
Yeah.
You think so?
That's your power girl. That's River right there.
Poldark, the White Queen, War of Worlds, that's coming out next year. And that, my friends, is the cast as far as we know right now.
You know, Joss has a habit of taking... I mean, none of these are complete unknowns, but relative unknowns, and turning them into household names.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of actually like the fact that there's very few of these actors that I'm what I would call intimately familiar with.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 or 3 out of the whole list, and a couple of faces I recognize, but...
In fact, I would say he has more powerhouses in here than he normally does.
Really, you think?
Who was in S.H.I.E.L.D.? That was his last show. Who was in S.H.I.E.L.D. that had a name? Clark Gregg. And he was minor.
I mean, I think there's a lot of powerhouses that just aren't familiar to America on this show. So they're kind of relatively unknowns to me or to, you know.
Well, sure, but not, I mean, it's still, that same, though. If they don't know you in America, you're not, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But like Grant, what's his name, and Chloe and all those people, nobody knew who they were till S.H.I.E.L.D.
Mm-hmm.
True. Very true.
All right, so do we want to take a break and then wrap this up?
Yeah, one more break.
Cool. We'll be right back.
The Neverscast invites you to join us for news, discussion, and more at theneverscast.com.
Okay, we're back to wrap things up. Closing thoughts, everybody.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm more excited after we've talked through this than I was before we started.
Well, that's good.
It is.
Like I feel
We're
like
glad we can help you out.
Thanks.
when it comes to new shows like this, I tend to kind of default to cautiously optimistic, but I think I'm more optimistic than cautious for this. I think we've been due a new Whedon series for a while now.
That was truly his.
That was truly his, and I don't know. I think this could be some of his best work. I think it has the potential, at least, to be some of his best work, and I'm excited for it.
So here's my thoughts with Joss. Are always his shows sound stupid on paper. And I love his work, but when I read this, I was like, really? And then I was like, well, look at how Buffy and Angel and all that sounds on paper. They all sound stupid. So, I'm going to be more than cautiously optimistic. What I am hoping is that he truly has creative control, and we're not going to be dealing with him getting foxed like he did with Firefly and Dollhouse, where they made him rewrite everything and put stuff out of sequence and change things so that it would be more watchable, which ended up making them harder to watch, in my opinion. They started Firefly with the train job, which is the worst episode of the whole series that made it out. And Dollhouse was just terrible the first 4 episodes, basically. So he likes to start off with a bang. If they leave him alone and let him do his thing, I think it'll be amazing.
Well, if anybody is going to give him that kind of just carte blanche, it's HBO.
Well, I think he went out there and had the cachet after the Avengers movies to go, this is the property I'm shopping. I want Final Cut and I want creative control, and there was a bidding war for it. So
now I will say this, the cautious portion of my perhaps cautious optimism is that as much as this is in Joss's wheelhouse, the super-powered ensemble, episodic drama, is he going to be able to tell us a new story?
Right.
Is he going to be able to give us something that he hasn't already given us?
Right. Has he lost his touch? Has all the scandal and everything, I don't know. I hope not. I hope he hasn't lost his touch, but we'll see.
Well, and it sounds to me like he's also surrounded himself with people that are going to add more legitimacy to the feminist message that he tends to espouse. So,
yeah, the Penny or whatever her name is to keep him honest.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's just Skeleton Crew. Who knows who he's going to bring back from his past to write episodes. He could bring back Marty. He could bring back Drew Greenberg.
Yep.
I'm really excited about those possibilities if those people are still interested in working with them. They're pretty successful on shows of their own now, so we'll see.
Yep.
What are your thoughts, Jax?
I'm excited about it. I try not to get too whipped up about TV shows because I really loved The X-Files until it was bad, and I really loved Lost until it was bad, and I am still mourning Game of Thrones. I feel very, very betrayed.
And The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah, and let's not forget how betrayed am I by The Walking Dead? I just left it off. We took it off the DVR the other day. Not recording it anymore.
Man, that's like signing the divorce papers.
It really is. I've broken up.
That's the final step.
I went from The Walking Dead. It was so terrible. I was like, okay, I'm gonna play video games. Because if they're screwing up, that's me.
I give up on TV. I'm done.
And other stuff like I liked Westworld. The second season wasn't as great. I liked Stranger Things. The second season wasn't great. I haven't watched the third season of that yet. I feel like there's been a lot of stuff I've been really excited about, and it's good for 10 episodes, and then that's done. And if that's what's going to be, just end it. So I will see where this goes. I will be probably more cautious of being cautiously optimistic. I will be leaning on the more cautious side.
Yeah.
Okay.
I do think that there's a good team assembled. So I'm hoping that with all of that good breeding, we'll have something to talk about.
Right.
But we'll see.
Yep. The last thing I'd like to say, just as, following up on that, is Joss Whedon brought the long arc to television show writing.
That's true.
True.
If anyone knows how to keep a show going over multiple seasons with storylines that intersect and go for and get called back to, they were calling back stuff in season 2 and season 7 of Buffy.
Yeah. And he had
is the
22
master.
episode seasons then too.
Yes. He is the master of the long arc. So I am less concerned about keeping it going than I am it getting off to a good start.
Okay.
But we'll see.
Yeah, knowing Joss, he already knows how it's going to end.
Oh, yes.
I mean, he's
yes.
He's a planner, and he already knows how the story's going to start, and he already knows how the story's going to end. Whether it takes a season or 2 seasons or 5 seasons, he knows where it's going to end.
I mean, that's why there was a Serenity movie, because that was season 3, 4, and 5, or 2, 3, and 4.
Right.
For Firefly. They just made they took a lot of the build-up and made a movie out of it.
Yep.
So he knew at least how the first arc in that show was going to end. So, and he knew how Buffy was going to end. So, yeah, exciting stuff.
Yeah,
we'll just have to see. And we're probably, my guess is a year out, at least, from the show premiering.
That's probably right.
So as we go forward, what do our hopefully soon to be loyal listeners have to look forward to from us? What kind of content are we hoping to deliver as we lead up to the actual broadcast of the Nevers?
Right there.
So I feel like we don't really know that. We obviously want to keep everybody abreast of news. I don't think we're going to be the show that gets the interviews or the show that gets the stars or anything like that. We're mostly going to be an analysis show, a recap and analysis show.
Armchair directors.
Yep. Yes.
That's us.
Yep.
Because, there's already a podcast out there that's affiliated with the show, so they're going to get all that. And, good for them.
Maybe we could sell them some ad time.
It will be interesting to see how free they can be with their opinions on that show, because it is affiliated probably with one or both of the producing companies.
Whereas we will say whatever stupid shit we feel like saying.
And we can cuss and carry on and drink wine. Much like the podcast Jackie and I do, it kind of developed a personality on its own. I feel like our greatest strength is, being super fans and wanting to talk intelligently once the show starts about some of the existentialism that Joss is really well known for, the philosophy, the symbolism, as well as just, what the hell just happened? So what are you guys hoping to bring to it?
You're talking about in the lead up? I mean,
in the lead up and, and the show itself.
I mean, I think in the lead up, this is going to be where we do develop kind of how we all work together. And I would look forward to that gelling a little bit more. It's hard to speculate as to exactly what's going to happen, because this is going to be a new original stories. There's not like a source material you can go to and be like, oh yeah, well, maybe they'll do this and this is how they could do that, blah, blah. I don't have any idea where it's going to go at this point, and I'm happy to go along for the ride. I do like picking this stuff apart. I mean, one of my favorite things was, the times we've gotten together to watch Cabin in the Woods and we just stop the movie every 20 minutes, discuss what has happened, discuss what has happened, what it means, blah, blah, where it fits in the whole, everything. And, so it takes us like 5 hours to watch this 90-minute movie.
Right.
But that's fun. So I look forward to that. I mean, I think it's going to be kind of more news and reporting, and then we're going to get into the show when the show actually starts. But by then we'll have, developed our personalities to deal with it.
I mean, I'd like to do something once a month, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe do our favorite Joss Whedon episodes or favorite quotes or something like that. I don't want to be too passe. But I mean, the show's going to kind of lead the way to the content.
Right.
Like when they start dropping trailers and, stuff like that, then, I don't know. HBO tends to be a lot more close hold about their stuff than the networks are. So we're just going to have to see.
At any rate, if there's news, we will bring it to you.
Probably 3 weeks after it happens.
More than likely.
We're trying to develop good habits with this free stuff too.
Yeah, we really are. So forgive us. I mean, let's face it, the show's probably going to be 10 or 12 episodes long. So we can, I think we can handle 3 months of discipline.
Yeah.
Well, we can probably get pretty close.
Depends on which 3 months of the year that is.
Yeah.
I'll check my schedule. I'll get back to you.
So we have an email at the Neverscast at gmail.com. If you have any thoughts, please don't cuss at us.
Or do.
We're trying. And hopefully we'll be a lot funnier next time. So we appreciate you listening, and thanks for tuning in.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for episode 1 of the Neverscast with Heather Malone, Jackie Rossi, and Josh Wessner. This episode was written and produced by Heather Malone, produced and engineered by Josh Wessner at 2 Ton Studios, Aurora, Colorado. Follow and share the Neverscast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. For information and sponsorship opportunities, please email theneverscast@gmail.com.